On an auto drive, Moreno Valley stop and go on the 215 between Alessandro and University Avenue. And that is the very latest with news, weather, and traffic on the station that leaves no listener behind. Kcaa 1050 AM.
CNBC Headline News is brought to you exclusively by West Coast Auto, located at 5180 Holt Boulevard in Montclair, where you'll find the widest selection of the most pristine used automobiles in Southern California.
This is Dick from Carpet Masters. Carpet Masters has been serving the Inland Empire for over 55 years. Carpet Masters uses extraction cleaning for your carpet because there's no better cleaning to remove the soil from your carpet. All of our furniture cleaning is done by hand in your home or in our plant. Carpet Masters also offers dry cleaning for fine furniture. Call Carpet Masters at 793-7215. That's 793-7215 for Carpet Masters.
Are you in charge of keeping people safe from lightning and severe weather? Visit weatherbugsafety.com today. Safety professionals everywhere are turning to WeatherBug for the most advanced monitoring and alerting. Why? Only WeatherBug offers real-time lightning and severe weather alerts. Minutes matter when danger is near. Get WeatherBug safety solutions to keep your organization safer from bad weather. Visit weatherbugsafety.com today. Download the WeatherBug app and know before.
This is KCAA.
Welcome to Isla Earth. Wouldn't it be great to have a freeway named after you, a galaxy, or maybe a complex formula for calculating carbon dioxide's effect on climate change? Scientist Guy Stewart Callender wrote a paper in 1938 titled The Artificial Production of Carbon Dioxide and Its Influence on Temperature. It was his best answer to the question of whether carbon levels affect climate. As it turns out, his answer was a pretty accurate one. Callender predicted a gradual warming of about 0.03 Celsius per decade, based on carbon dioxide measurements taken in the early 1800s. He wasn't off by much. His theory, now known as the Callender effect, was a critical first step for climate science. It kicked off a round of discussion that's still going on today, like how much carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere, and how much of that do our oceans absorb. Recent research using the latest techniques in geochemistry and climate dynamics builds on the work Callender did some 70 years ago. A lot of scientists are working to better understand climate change, but one name stands out: Guy Stewart Callender and his Callender effect. Learn more at islaearth.org. Isla Earth is produced by the Catalina Island Conservancy with support from its Fund for a Sustainable Planet, because Earth is an island.
Smart money. Talk radio.
Welcome to Smart Money Talk Radio, where smart money is talking and we get to listen in to what smart money has to say. I'm Jim Conaway.
And I'm Scott Landborg, a.k.a. Scott Strategy.
To listen to this and previous shows, visit smartmoneytalkradio.com or our LinkedIn page. If you want your money questions answered, make sure we know what those questions are.
Today, our guests are James Kinney, entrepreneur, author, and business expert, and Pernilla Lopez, founder of Good Life Design and former CEO of IKEA North America. We're going to also be taking your questions. So if you want your question answered on the air, go to smartmoneytalkradio.com. That's smartmoneytalkradio.com. But right now it's 3:05 and it's time for
The Money Rundown.
Story number one, in his annual letter to shareholders, JP Morgan boss Jamie Dimon warned there will be another crisis. And the market reaction could be even more volatile because of regulations that are now tougher. He argued the crackdown on the financial sector, added to more stringent requirements for capital and liquidity, will hamper banks' capacity to act as a buffer against shocks in financial markets. Banks could become reluctant to extend credit, for example, and less likely to take on stock issuance through rights offering.
Well, you know what? I think he's right. And we've seen this over the years as a cycle, is the banks get tight. When money gets tight, it does cause that pressure on the stock market. And I think he's right. However, there is one thing that I'm hoping will buffer the market, and that is there's a lot of private money coming in there with BDCAs and various private lenders. Hopefully the private money will be there to help act as that cushion where the
This
large bank.
story really shocked me last week, actually. I thought it was pretty interesting. The market's at multi-year highs. We've had 4 of the best years going back to the 1930s. And it was interesting because we talk to clients every single day and sit down with them, and people are less and less concerned about market volatility because there just hasn't been much in quite a while. They've forgotten about 2008. They've forgotten about 2001. And it's amazing how little people are concerned about it. So it's interesting for him to mention that another crisis will be coming, and it could get pretty bad. I remember a couple years ago, we had people that were talking about gold and it's going to go up forever. And what happened? It tanked. Same thing with oil. Let's look at oil. What's really changed? What's really changed in
now
demand
you're getting
for
into
oil
a slippery subject
in the past 6 to 9 months? Well, what's changed is it's worth half as much. So the same thing can happen in financial markets. And you want to make sure your financial portfolio is positioned to handle stresses that may be coming down the pike.
So if you want a financial stress test, give us a call at Conaway & Conaway. That is 888-266-2929. Story number 2, Apple stock down 0.6% in morning trade last week after analyst Andy Perkins at Societe Generale cut his ratings to hold from buy. Wow. He kept his stock price target at $130, which is 3.2% above current levels, but 2.2% below the record closing high of 133 seen February 23rd. Perkins estimates the average selling price of iPhones during March quarter fell. I think that's kind of interesting. And then in December, he's thinking that it would be, fell from the December high, and that the iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus models have declined in the total market share, which is true. You go into any one of the Verizon stores or Sprint or any of those things, the competition for those smartphones is ginormous.
Yeah, it's going to continue. And it's an interesting thing when people try to buy individual stocks. We ran into this last week, Jim, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Someone was talking about wanting to buy Apple. And,
yes.
And they get in love with product, or they get in love.
Someone living in Manhattan, hopefully listening to the show.
They get in love with the product. They get in love with the product rollout. We got to keep in mind the market's kind of priced some of that stuff in. So be careful. I mean, if you look at how Apple has moved just in the past year, we're at $126 a share. It was worth $73 a share sometime within the past year. And remember, if we look back at the end of 2012, when the stock was about $100 a share, it dropped over 40% to the middle of 2013. So, and then since then, it's really rallied.
That was when I was calling them, complaining about my phone. I'm sure of it.
There you go. Well, no matter what's happening, I think it just is a reminder that you want to be careful when you're buying individual stock positions. Don't get too overexposed. Don't get too in love with the product. There's a lot of things to consider, and a lot of things to consider with how prices and stocks move. It's not all fundamentals. It's not all, I think the business is going to continue to grow. They're going to continue to crush it. You've got speculation, and stock prices is something you need to consider.
You know what? If the wind blows the wrong direction, the stock price could move.
Jim, let me give you one other.
Go ahead, Scott.
I knew a bunch of clients, a bunch of people that were really excited about Chevron stock last year. Oh, I love it. It's a multi-year. It's never going to go down. People are always going to need oil, right? Stock prices drop by 50%. The stock goes from $135 a share to $106. And if people didn't diversify their investments, they might be feeling the pain.
And let me tell you, with a 50% drop in price, that's still admirable management on their part to keep the stock price from having cut in half.
Jim, let me just remind our listeners really quick, if you want a free stress test of your portfolio, just give us a call, 888-266-2929, 888-266-2929. No matter what you own, you can get a second opinion and look at exactly how those investments would perform in different market conditions and find out if you're diversified. Story number 3, according to a recent MarketWatch survey, Gen Xers are making 7 major retirement planning mistakes.
Dun, dun, dun.
They're not saving enough. They're
Well,
not
yeah,
saving
duh.
enough. A big chunk, 27%, are tapping their 401ks for reasons other than retirement. 39% don't want to think about retirement investing until they're closer to retirement. They're not estimating their retirement needs. Even when they do think about retirement, they're neglecting some important factors. They're unaware of the catch-up contribution rules for retirement savings, and very few are using financial advisors.
Well, yeah, that's not really too much of a surprise. I've seen that, having been in this industry for almost 30 years, I've seen that age group repeatedly make those kinds of issues and repeatedly make those kinds of mistakes. Here's the fascinating part. If it was reversed, those Gen Xers would already have purchased financial independence, significantly gone towards that.
One other one that's not on there that I think about all the time is real estate. So many young people are renting instead of owning something or buying something. And even if you don't want to live into it for the next 30 years, if you can buy some investment property, makes a big, big difference in that overall retirement strategy.
That's a dirty little financial secret that you might want to buy dirt. You're listening to Smart Money Talk Radio. I'm Jim Conaway.
And I'm Scott Landborg.
And upcoming next, we will be talking with entrepreneur, author, and business personality James Kinney. You don't want to miss it.
Before we go, we want to tell you about the Smart Money event with Susan Green that's going to be coming up in Orange County this week. Your New Money Legacy: From Uncertainty to Clarity, Confidence, and Long-Term Profit. The 3-hour workshop will take place at Hotel Huntington Beach, across the street from Bellaterra Center, on Thursday, April 16th, 2015, from 6 to 9 p.m. If you're interested, give us a call, 888-266-2929, and we'll make sure to get you 2 free tickets. That's all the time we have for this segment. We'll be back after the break.
Smart Money Talk Radio.
Do you own or run a small business? Would you like to access your company's books from anywhere at any time? Call Complete Controller now at 866-443-8879. We host your books and do the work. We can keep track of costs by job. We can prepare your billing. We produce lender-ready reports and audit-ready books at a fraction of the price. Call Complete Controller at 866-443-8879. When you think virtual bookkeeping, think Complete Controller. Your books are just a click away. 866-443-8879.
When we plan, we want to know about you, who you are, what you love, what matters. Then we go to work to marshal and align your financial resources to get what you want. We'll do everything in our power to keep you focused on achieving your goals and maintain what you've worked so hard for. Call us at 888-266-2929 or visit ConawayandConaway.com.
If you're tired of getting turned down by banks and other money lenders, it's time you came to Falcon Investment and Loans Incorporated. Our experienced team of investment and lending professionals is dedicated to meeting our clients' private loan needs quickly and efficiently. We offer competitive interest rates, fast approval, and deal closures. So don't wait. Visit falconloans.com today and we'll help you soar. Falcon Investment and Loans Incorporated is licensed through the California Department of Real Estate. ERE 0190824 NMLS 863069. Visit falconloans.com for more information.
Smart Money Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Smart Money Talk Radio, where smart money is talking and we're listening in to get some good ideas. I'm Jim Conaway.
And I'm Scott Landborg, a.k.a. Scott Strategy. Welcome back to Smart Money. And by the way, we want to just remind you, if you want your questions answered on the air, go to smartmoneytalkradio.com and click on Send a Question. Up next, our guest, James Kinney, is a serial entrepreneur, author, and musician. He's the founder of Kinney Group Creative, Kinney Group Events, Good Barbering Company, along with other investments. After surviving a near-fatal car accident and overcoming crippling anxiety and depression during his career on Wall Street, he developed a holistic approach to business performance. James, we're so happy to have you on Smart Money.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Scott. How are you guys?
Doing very well. I got a chance to Google your life, but I didn't get any insight as to exactly what the epiphany event was like. What happened with this car accident that led to what you writing this book and being who you are now?
Well, I'll tell you this. When you have to learn how to walk again and you have an opportunity to live life the way that you probably should have lived it the first time, it puts a fire under you like none other. So, I have a good friend that always says, your trauma is where your treasure lies. So it was an opportunity for me to really wake up and get things together. Of course, we don't ever plan to have things like that happen in our lives, but I consider it as something that was fortunate, that helped me really get focused, not only in my personal life, but in my business career.
Now, James, tell us a little bit about how you are helping people, helping business owners with business performance.
So business performance came to me, like you guys mentioned in the bio, when I worked at a small firm called GDS out of the UK. We did market analysis. I particularly worked with the Department of Energy on nuclear, wind, solar, and the power grid. And through that work, what I really learned is that if you don't take care of yourself as a person, the business is just not possible. So there's a lot of theories about, work 90 hours a week, work 80 hours a week, et cetera. Don't sleep, drink a ton, you're overweight. And I think we all know the end result of that is a poor quality of work. So when I started 30,000 Feet, which is my new business that works on what I call holistic business performance, it's all about really taking care of yourself. Of course, we're all here in Southern California, so it's a very California approach, if you will, to business performance. But in particularly now, when I work with small businesses and with individuals, it's just about changing the mindset neurochemically of the person and physically within the person so that they can succeed in business on a day in, day out basis. Because everyone gets hot and cold.
Yep. And people work at different paces. I'm a sprinter by my nature. My wife is an endurance runner. So, I totally understand that. Now, I got to ask, what is your book, Living at 30,000 Feet? How did you come up with that title, and what does that mean?
Great question. So I'm bi-coastal between here and New York. I started my first successful business because I had several fail when I was in my mid-20s. So my first successful business, Kinney Group Creative and Kinney Group Events, are both based in New York City. I moved out here to Los Angeles about 2.5 years ago. So 30,000 Feet literally came to me on the plane because I was literally flying back and forth from L.A. to New York every couple weeks. So that's how the 30,000 Feet thing happened. What the book was inspired by is I really had an epiphany. I'm sure you guys did too. You graduate from school and you are pursuing the American dream. But the reality of it is the American dream is absolutely possible, but it has to be earned and it's not given. And I think a lot of us are programmed to believe that if I go to school for 4 years and I graduate, even if I get law degree, medical degree, et cetera, when I get out, I just expect to have this life. I'm going to have the love I wanted. I'm going to have plenty of money, et cetera. But it just doesn't work that way. So I really discovered through just my own studies in neurochemistry and through society that we all go through what I call a neurochemical cliff. So the book, Living at 30,000 Feet, Insights for Post-College America, is all about practical business steps. And I really enjoyed listening to you guys while I was on hold, specifically for Gen X, as you guys were saying. A lot of us just don't know, and we think that we can just leave our job and start this business without any sort of research or analysis on what the market is doing, et cetera. So the book is a quick, easy hour read for people that are really Gen X and up to understand quick, easy, and practical ways to perform as a business athlete, as I would say. And whether they're a professional, a creative, or an entrepreneur, live the best business life that they can possible.
That's fascinating. And you know what's interesting is business life leads to personal life, which is our next guest is going to be talking about that in a little bit of depth, and she's going to be bringing some tools to the table about that.
Jay, you talked about tips for business athletes. Can you give our listeners some tips?
Absolutely. So there's a chapter in the book where I talk about diet and nutrition, and I break everything down to what I call micro change and micro steps. I think what happens is that we're all so influenced by what we see on television mostly, that there's a 21-day cure to weight loss. There's a 30-day to get rich. And Jim and Scott, you guys know just like I know, that doesn't happen. I've spent the last 5 years growing several small businesses, and it's not possible. So to answer your question...
Wait a minute. You mean if I print up business cards and start a business, I'm not going to be a multimillionaire overnight?
Right, I know, exactly, right? So in 90 days, I'm super successful. I made $1 million. I mean, the problem is, and I definitely will answer the question, we see Mark Zuckerberg as the pole mark for what everyone can do. That's lightning in a bottle. Someone extremely talented, extremely gifted, at the right time in the right place with the right money, but that just doesn't happen every single day.
Yep. So we preach it, brother.
So in particular in the book, when I talk about nutrition, I say you really have to break it down to micro steps, meaning that it's not even one day at a time, it's one bite at a time. And you are what you eat, food is your mood, et cetera, et cetera. And I talk about several friends of mine in the book who are very successful entrepreneurs that are food coaches that talk about how if you're pounding 9 espressos a day and if you're eating cheeseburgers for lunch, when I worked on Wall Street, I did that. Like the bacon cheeseburger with garlic fries was my lunch. I come back at 1:30 to cold call CEOs to buy analyst reports for me, and I felt awful when I was cold calling and selling. So there was a direct correlation between my business performance and the way that I ate. And once I had breakthroughs with my own life, with diet, nutrition, and training, like you and your wife, then I really was able to perform better as a business person. And the
here's
problem
an interesting one. I hit the wall. This year I hit the wall with my diabetes. I was at I was over 210 pounds, and I was using more and more insulin. I was taking shots every 3 or 4 hours to try and control the disease. And I had heard the message many, many times that I finally decided to go ahead and do something about it. I changed my diet to fight the disease. And because of fighting the disease, I was able to drop the drugs. And because of dropping the drugs, I dropped the weight. And I get it. There is a huge performance increase when you're prepared, when you're strengthened, when you have your best mental capacity.
Yeah, I lost. Well, by the way, that's amazing, and congratulations to you, because we can't succeed in business if we're not alive. And health is it's serious. It's all that we have. I have the privilege of having a friend in Ariana Huffington, and in her book, Thrive, this is exactly what she talks about. When I worked on Wall Street, I was 45 pounds overweight from where I am now. And just like you, I feel so much better, 45 pounds lighter.
James, can you tell us how people can reach out to you if they want to learn more and to buy your book?
Of course. I'm available on Twitter, just at James N. Kinney. N stands for Nick. And on Instagram, at James N. Kinney. And, of course, my website is jamesnkinney.com. So after surviving what I've survived and being able to have some success in business, I've really just dedicated myself to educating people on how to be the best person they can be so they can run the best business they can run and to have the best career that's possible.
Oh, fantastic. So I want to just sort of wrap up what you've said. You like to eat for success, and you believe that you are what you eat.
Yeah.
So unless you want to be a hamburger and a triple shot espresso, you might want to change that diet.
Yes, and this is actually a great announcement. I'm doing my first triathlon in Laguna Beach, actually, on May 31st. So I don't want, I don't want you guys to come because I might walk part of it. But
No. We'll come there, and we'll stand in the first mile, so you can look all fresh and strong. We won't hang around and.
Don't hang around like mile 20. Just come the first mile, and I'll look amazing.
There you go. See, that's smart marketing. I like that.
James, thanks so much for being on the show. And if you want to learn more, go pick up his book, Living at 30,000 Feet. Thanks, James.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Scott.
All right, we're almost out of time for this segment. We've got time for one quick question from one of our listeners. Don E. writes, my niece asked me to co-sign for her student loan. Her mother doesn't qualify for the loan. What should I consider before doing this?
Oh, baby. You better consider how long you're willing to make payments on that loan, because if you co-sign for a student loan particularly, it is in your name forever until that thing is paid off. There is no way. Student loans, by the way, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert, cannot be included in personal bankruptcies.
Absolutely right.
So if you sign on that, bottom line, baby, it's your loan. I don't care what your niece does. You might as well just give her the cash.
Next question, Keith W. writes, how often should I check my credit score?
Well, every time you think you should, number one. If you have any kind of a credit event, you should check your credit score. And that means, like, for instance, somebody made a fraudulent charge on your card or something of that nature. That's just best to go and check.
Yeah,
it's not that expensive.
Credit score management is really important, really critical. If you're going to be buying property, buying real estate, if you're going to be buying a car, you want to make sure you're managing it appropriately, you're keeping your debt to income low, and you are getting the best value you can for your money. I'm Scott Landborg here with Jim Conaway. You're listening to Smart Money Talk Radio on NBC News Radio, AM 1050 KCAA.
And you know what? Coming next, we're going to have some really interesting conversation, and I hope that everybody gets some value out of it. So we want you to stay tuned.
Panilla Lopez up next on Smart Money Talk Radio. Back after the break.
Smart Money Talk Radio.
When we plan, we want to know about you, who you are, what you love, what matters. Then we go to work to marshal and align your financial resources to get what you want. We'll do everything in our power to keep you focused on achieving your goals and maintain what you've worked so hard for. Call us at 888-266-2929 or visit ConawayandConaway.com.
Do you own or run a small business? Would you like to access your company's books from anywhere at any time? Call Complete Controller now at 866-443-8879. We host your books and do the work. We can keep track of costs by job. We can prepare your billing. We produce lender-ready reports and audit-ready books at a fraction of the price. Call Complete Controller at 866-443-8879. When you think virtual bookkeeping, think Complete Controller. Your books are just a click away. 866-443-8879.
Smart Money Talk Radio is now on LinkedIn.
Do you even know what LinkedIn is, Jim?
If I went there, I might.
There you'll find business ideas, money tips, and exclusive interviews.
So go link up today and join the Smart Money Network.
When we plan, we want to know about you, who you are, what you love.
Smart Money Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Smart Money Talk Radio, where smart money is talking, and we get to hear what smart money has to say. I'm Jim Conaway.
And I'm Scott Landborg, a.k.a. Scott Strategy. Before we get to talk to our next guest,
I'm still jealous. I got to come up with my own AKA.
We'll work on it. We're going to take we'll take a Twitter survey. I've got a couple choice names for you.
Yeah, we can't use those on the air, Scott.
Hey, we've got to mention that Smart Money's Susan Green is going to be the guest speaker during an Orange County event this week. Your new money legacy from uncertainty to clarity, confidence, and long-term profit. The 3-hour workshop will take place at Hotel Huntington Beach across the street from Bellaterra Center on Thursday, April 16th, 2015 from 6 to 9 p.m. If you want a couple tickets, give us a call, 888-266-2929, 888-266-2929. We are extremely honored.
Yes, we are.
To have our next guest join us in studio. It's Panilla Lopez. She's the founder of Good Life Design and the former CEO of IKEA North America. After 20 years with one of the world's most well-known brands, Panilla realized that her dream job had a price. With April being National Stress Awareness Month, it's our honor to have one of the most well-qualified women to speak on the topic of leadership and work-life balance. And she's here joining us today. Panilla, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
You know, we're really excited about this. Now, I've had a chance to chat with you ahead of time, so I've got a little bit of insight. What was your epiphany event? What triggered you to go down the road you went down?
It actually started, I would say, I had this epiphany when I was taken to the hospital at the age of 42. I was at a meeting in Philadelphia. I had been, going at it with small children, commuting, high-powered job, all kinds of stuff. And I had an anxiety attack and was taken to the hospital and found out that I literally thought I was dying of a heart attack. That was not the case. I found out that I was very relieved that I didn't have this heart attack. And the next day, I actually got back on the saddle and said, okay, good. I don't have a heart attack, so I can just go back and do what I'm doing. And it took me a year before I actually realized that I needed to really take hold of that. It's not all about work, and it's not about constantly adding on more and more. I needed to feel more in control. So I started a long journey of actually taking care of myself, very similar to what we just heard. And that was really my beginning of self-awareness and understanding that you have to create a more holistic approach to work and life and really to your life. And when I left IKEA in 2011, it was really an important thing for me to share some of the tools that I had used to sort of get back on my feet and get much more realistic about what I personally can accomplish and stay connected with myself. And that's what I've come into with the book.
Were any of those tools Allen wrenches?
Oh, man, you need to start with an Allen wrench.
You have to start with an Allen wrench, particularly with somebody who used to work at IKEA.
Yes. So the tools is really just, I believe that, I was very fortunate that this happened to me at a company that really offer a variety of different things for people. And I was, always on leadership training, had mentors, coaches, personal development. And I feel that when I left IKEA, that was sort of like a real opportunity for me to share some of those tools with people that don't have that same company they work for, or they might be working for themselves or being at home or whatever you're doing, that not everybody has that. And I feel that it was my time to share that. So just as much as we share instructions and how to put things together, this is a toolbox for how to kind of put your life together.
Wow. I like that.
So relevant.
It really is.
So relevant today.
And it's so relevant to wealth management, because if you don't know where you want to go, who cares how much money you've got? You're just going to spin around in circles.
I've been listening to a lot of other financial radio this week, actually, and I was listening to someone else that was talking about sacrificing so much today so that you can live like nobody else tomorrow. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because I think what your book would probably suggest is you can't sacrifice too much for today, and you need to really consider what you're doing now and not just be living for the future.
It's interesting, because I actually was sharing earlier that you wouldn't consider actually building a house without having some sort of a plan. And just having literally gone through, we just moved here, and I've literally just gone through a huge remodel. My husband and I lived with 4 lawn chairs and a mattress on the floor for 4 months while we were doing some construction. And, it was okay to sacrifice for a couple of months, because I knew what was coming ahead. But it wouldn't have been so much fun to live like this for 9 months or a couple of years. So I do think that if we could, in our lives, think a little more about, like, what do we do and how much money and time and resources we actually use, and then, how much we invest when it comes to putting a house together or many other things, or business. But most people do not really have a life plan. We might have a plan for when we're dead, but how many people really have a life plan? And it doesn't need to be fancy. It can be thinking about it in terms of design your life plan. And it's sort of a fun things more that, I think it's a great kind of, it makes people happy when you talk about, I'm designing my life.
I had a client who designed his life. He'd worked at the fire department forever. Literally since 2 days before his 18th birthday. He was 68. And he was retiring because he could no longer physically do the job. They wouldn't let him. He was playing at firemen, and they wouldn't let him do it anymore. So he decided to start another business. It was a bass fishing business. And he bought 2 boats. And I said, why 2 boats? And he said, if I don't like them, and they're in the other boat. If I like them, they're in my boat. You see, here's the thing that's fascinating, is that people think if they need to do the money design first, and it isn't. It's you need to design your life, what you want to do when you grow up first. Because then Scott and I, we have the skills to measure how much all that stuff costs. We can do the math at that point. It's fairly straightforward.
Yeah, figure out how to position it. Tell us a little bit more about Good Life Design. What's your mission, and how are you helping people?
Well, we're just starting it. My book was launched in November, and we've started Good Life Design. And when I say we, I actually started with my daughter, who is 23 years old, and we sort of come at it from different, life experiences and what we both want to get out of it. But I think we have the same idea that if you're a 23-year-old, or if you are at my age, 56, we are, along the life we all need. I would say, some sort of plan of where we want to go. We need some tools. And also we need a community of people that can actually help us. And so the idea here is really to create Good Life Design is about a community and a resource center for people that want to take ownership of designing their best life.
So how do you go?
Wait a minute. This is a resource center.
That's what we want to create. We are
Got
not quite there yet, but kind of a resource hub, I guess, if you could say that. And bring people together, different resources from designing your best financial life could be one aspect of it. But we are starting right now with our tools. We are doing some workshops. We have a workshop coming up in May that is really our first one. She and I have been doing retreats for a number of years. Retreats are really a great way for people to come together, kind of reset sort of their pause a little bit and reset their button and reflect.
And work on the life instead of being in your life.
Exactly. Walk away a little bit and look at where am I going. And so the idea is really, I have seen in my life so many people just light up when they realize that they have power and that they actually can do what they want to do. And I want to be able to see more of that. And if I can help empower people, give them tools, create environments, that's the purpose. And I know today you have kids that are graduating from high school. We talked about that earlier. From college. And they have more options than they can. It's almost like frightening and almost paralyzing because you think that your life should be like the way you're portraying on Facebook tomorrow. But, what do you do next? So I do believe that there is a lot of young people, as much as people my age and people that are retiring later than me, that are all going through the same thing. What do I want to do?
Yep. What are some steps that people can take to start designing the life that they want?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. That one, I do think that first of all, you need to decide that you actually are interested in spending some time on this, and that you actually realize that it is your responsibility, no one else. It's not your parents, it's not your husband that's the problem, or your wife, or your company. It's you that are responsible for your life, number one. Number two, think about your life. What is it that you actually want to accomplish? Not just today and tomorrow in a job, but what do you want out of your life? And what do you want really to have said, this is what I stood for? So kind of just, and you don't have to spend too much, but just have some sort of direction. I think it's really important to assess what are your personal core values, and what are things you absolutely, sometimes it's hard to say, what do I love to do? That's a good way to start, but the better answer is, or start is actually, what do I not like to do? Because once you start talking about what you don't like to do, you actually start getting all excited about what you truly want to do.
That's an interesting exercise.
I think you mentioned something too that made me think about this. Isn't just a quick checklist, right?
No.
This is something that's going to take a significant amount of time. Talk to someone about it, really reflect on it, pick up your book, read it. It's something that's going to take a serious amount of time to figure out what you want, and then you're going to continue to need to use that tool you were talking about, Jim.
The Allen wrench.
There you go.
Yeah.
Make sure you're maintaining and you're still on course, right?
Yeah, and like, I think it's important that, keep on track, and it's okay, actually, halfway you say, I thought I wanted to go this direction. That's not going to work. I want something else. There is really, like, I started out as a journalist, and I failed, and then I started my own business, and then I went to America, and, I had a long history before I actually got into the retail business and became successful. And now, all these years later, I'm actually writing a book. I'm back to being a journalist. Who would know?
Congratulations.
Pick up your book. It's called Design Your Life.
Design Your Life, yes.
How can people reach you? How can they learn more about all of the endeavors that you're on and buy your new book?
Well, they can reach me at www.goodlifedesign.com. I'm also on Twitter at Spears Lopez. And look forward to hearing from people.
Oh, fantastic.
Pick up the book. Sounds great. And you have an event coming up. You have a workshop, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to start our workshops, and we start the first one May 30th, and we'll do Saturdays from 9 to 4, and people can read more about that on our website.
Perfect.
Well,
thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. It's a joy. Thank you.
You know what? It's really interesting to me. Our life doesn't come in a flat box that has instructions on how to put it all together. It's really important to go get your design manual, your how to put it together
And
part.
keep looking at it. Keep working at it. No, this is something
absolutely.
that's going to take some time and take some focus. So do a deep dive. I'm Scott Lamborg here with Jim Conaway. You listen to Smart Money Talk Radio. We're going to be back after the break.
As soon as we get to the break, we will be back. We promise. And we're waiting for the break music. Well, you know what? Why don't we just switch to a client question here? A listener question.
Now, listeners, by the way, before we jump into that, Jim, I want to remind our listeners about an event we've got coming up this week with Smart Money's Susan Green, going to be one of the guest speakers during an Orange County event this week. Your New Money Legacy: From Uncertainty to Clarity, Confidence, and Long-Term Profit. The 3-hour workshop will take place at Hotel Huntington Beach across the street from Bellaterra Center on Thursday, April 16th from 6 to 9. If you want a ticket to the event, give us a call, 888-266-2929. That's 888-266-2929. We've got to take a short break, and when we get back, we are going to be taking your questions and also talking more about some smart money strategy. So stay tuned. I'm Scott Landborg.
I'm what's left of Jim Conaway.
Back after the break.
Smart Money Talk Radio.
Smart Money is now on Facebook.
There you'll find the latest episodes, interviews, and money tips.
What are you waiting for? Go like Smart Money Talk Radio today.
Do you own or run a small business? Would you like to access your company's books from anywhere at any time? Call Complete Controller now at 866-443-8879. We host your books and do the work. We can keep track of costs by job. We can prepare your billing. We produce lender-ready reports and audit-ready books at a fraction of the price. Call Complete Controller at 866-443-8879. When you think virtual bookkeeping, think Complete Controller. Your books are just a click away. 866-443-8879.
Smart Money Talk Radio is now on LinkedIn.
Do you even know what LinkedIn is, Jim?
If I went there, I might.
There you'll find business ideas, money tips, and exclusive interviews.
So go link up today and join the Smart Money Network. If you're tired of getting turned down by banks and other money lenders, it's time you came to Falcon Investment and Loans Incorporated. Our experienced team of investment and lending professionals is dedicated to meeting our clients' private loan needs quickly and efficiently. We offer competitive interest rates, fast approval, and deal closures. So don't wait. Visit falconloans.com today and we'll help you soar.
Falcon Investment and Loans Incorporated is licensed through the California Department of Real Estate. DRE 0190824 NMLS 863069. Visit falconloans.com for more information.
Smart Money Talk Radio.
Welcome back to Smart Money Talk Radio, where we occasionally turn the microphones on. I'm Jim Conaway.
And I'm Scott Lamborg, a.k.a. Scott Strategy. You just like to throw me under the bus, don't you, Jim?
Oh, I surely do.
Hey,
it's fun to watch that bus go boing, boing.
Right now we've got our weekly strategy session with you. We're talking about 3 ways to live your dream. We've had a couple great guests on our show today talking about the importance of balance, the importance of thinking about how to manage and improve your life now, and also to have the business and the career that you really want. So let's talk about 3 different ways that you can actually do that. How are some different strategies, Jim, that people can live their dream and transition to a job they really want?
Well, first and foremost, I would like everybody to understand I have a slightly different attitude about this. And we come from the money side. We come from the wealth side. But the first thing that I invite people to do is when they do that deep dive that you mentioned when we were talking with Vanilla.
Vanilla? Vanilla.
When we were talking, I apologize. When we were speaking with Vanilla, what am I butchering your name again?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. One of the things I invite people to do is inventory what they've got. Okay? And for instance, if you're doing a job and there's something in that job you really like, don't just say, oh, I like talking to people. No. What is it that you like about talking with people? What's the circumstance? What's the skill sets you need? Break it down. Figure out what your tool sets are, because that's exactly what we're going to be doing with your wealth. We're going to break down your wealth into its smallest, finest components, and we're going to make sure that we build the best possible mechanism to get your personal goals met with your finances.
So, Jim, we're talking about 3 ways to live your dream. Number 1, define your passion realistically. Number 2, find rocket fuel for your idea. And number 3, know how to use your assets as a parachute. So, Jim, what do you mean by defining your passion realistically?
Well, a little bit of what we've just been talking about. Our 2 guests were brilliant and insightful in this. And really what it boils down to is literally coming up with, what do you want to be when you grow up? When you're ready to not be that engineer anymore, when you're ready to close the shop, when you're ready to no longer be an attorney or doctor or whatever it is, what do you do next?
So we deal with a lot of entrepreneurs that ask that question, right? We ran into the gentleman that started his own wine business.
Oh, yes.
What did he do before that?
He was a crane operator.
Crane operator who wanted to have a wine business. And how did he make that transition? You can do it. And Jim, you mentioned taking an inventory first of where your stuff is, where your money is, and understanding more about your passion. So, Jim, we deal with this all the time with people that are trying to figure out how they get from point A to point B, and if they want to move from being a
crane operator
to a winemaker,
yeah.
How do you actually do it?
Well, here's an interesting thing. I'm going to use this as an analogy. A financial analogy. One of my clients told me they wanted to live in Hawaii. And I said, really? Do you want to live there full time? Oh, no, not at all. They'd been there often enough to know about island fever. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about that. How long would you stay at this house in Hawaii? And they said, oh, we'd probably stay there a month out of the year. And I said, okay, great. Describe the house. And they knew exactly what they wanted. They literally knew the square footage. They knew the neighborhood. They knew where they wanted to be. Having been familiar with Hawaiian real estate at the time, I knew that house would be worth about $1.2 million. And I said, okay, so we need to come up with $1.2 million for you to be able to buy a house so you can live in it for 1 month out of the year. And they said, yep. And I said, terrific. Actually, all we need to do is come up with enough money for the down payment. Then what you do is you sell off 10 months of the house for $120,000 a piece. Ta-da! And they looked at me with an absolutely shocked expression because they just realized that I had handed them the keys to that particular piece of their kingdom, and it was all strategy.
Yeah, you can be innovative and creative to help get the life that you want and figure out a way to do that. So this gentleman that we talked about being a crane operator moving to a winemaker, he self-funded that transition. He self-funded that transition using some of his retirement funds to be able to fund that transition and fund his new business. There's strategies to do it. We see it all the time.
One of the things we have to understand about being an entrepreneur is it's the onto part is not the problem. It's the manure that you got to be careful about stepping into.
Step number 2. Oh, go ahead.
So I was going to say, if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's fabulous. Just make sure you can afford to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Find the rocket fuel for your idea. Find what's going to help push your idea into the stratosphere, whether it's raising capital and raising money. And right now, by the way, is one of the best times in history to be able to do that, whether it's resources online, crowdsource funding. If you've got a good concept and a good idea, there's someone that may be willing to help you build that concept.
Well, we had a guest on our show. I don't know if you recall this, but we had a guest on our show that managed to put together $65,000, and they're now making in excess of $50,000 a month in profits.
Wow.
I mean, it's amazing, all the different businesses. Now, one of the things you have to understand, though, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, do not assume that entrepreneurship gives you freedom, because once you own the business also owns you. Having a business is like having a baby, particularly a new one. They cry in the middle of the night and they need you. And that's what it's like with a business. You better be prepared for that. When you have a W-2 job and you hit that time card and you're out of there. But if you own it, you're in it.
We had someone the other day that we were helping that wanted to start their own business, and one of the ways they did it is they self-funded it. So they moved an old 401k that they had at their business that they had worked at for years and years, decided to start their own company. So we did a self-directed 401k. They moved it over, and they took out a $50,000 loan against their own 401k to start their business. Now, you want to be careful. You want to be very careful doing that because you may be putting your retirement at risk. But you need to be aware that it is a resource. If it's something that's going to help you live the life that you really want to do, it might make sense.
It might indeed.
Number 3, know how to use your assets as a parachute. I think most people know how to do this. It's called spending it. But be careful.
No, wait a minute. No, they don't. They have a problem of spending principal dollars, my friend. And we want them to spend the income dollars, not the principal dollars. I mean, think about it. If you were an entrepreneur, but you had an income that was locked in that could pay for your lifestyle, you could afford to have your business not make money. Doesn't that de-stress your business? So if you had to shutter the business, it's kind of like, oh, well, that was a good idea. On to the next one.
I think one of the things that we do here at Conaway and Conaway is look at the whole picture. Look at where all your assets are, whether it's income, whether it's your assets in your house, your assets, your financial assets, your retirement plans. How do you position all that stuff to create the life that you really want to have? And it's an exercise, Jim, that we've been working with on clients for years and years. That's really the question. What do you want? And then how do you position stuff to get to where you want to go?
In fact of the matter, we've been doing it so often, we actually have a name for it. We call it the clarity curve because people need to be clear, number 1, where they want to go. Number 2, what they're willing to do in order to get there. Number 3, when do they want to arrive, right? And all the issues that are along the way.
Jim, thank you. That's all the time we have for our strategy session for today. Let's jump into some of our listener questions. Our first question comes from Macy in Placentia. I'm a contractor for several businesses, and I want to open a Roth IRA. How do I move forward?
Well, there are 3 possible answers, Macy. Number 1, your income allows for you to qualify for a direct contribution to a Roth IRA. This is not my favorite answer because that means your income is not that high. However, you can go ahead and open up a Roth IRA on your own if your income is low enough. Number 2, let's say your income does not allow for direct contribution, in which case you can use a backdoor Roth. Now, I want you to be careful. You have to check with your tax advisor, of course. But here's the way it is. I'm whispering to the audience, okay, in case you're wondering. What you do is you open up a non-deductible traditional IRA and then the next day convert it to a Roth. Hello?
All right. Jim's already moved into the advanced class.
Now, that's not that advanced.
But no, it is advanced. I can't tell you how many times people don't know the difference just between a regular IRA and a Roth IRA and when you want to use it. One of the first things, if you're going to put money into a Roth IRA, one of the first things you need to look at is your tax return and figure out what tax bracket you're in.
Oh, party
Jim,
poop.
like you mentioned, some people aren't going to qualify from an income perspective.
That's true.
If you're in a low tax bracket, I was talking with someone today that's paying 2.5% in federal taxes. 2.5% of their income is going in federal taxes. Guess what their CPA told them to do?
A traditional IRA.
To do a traditional IRA. So they'll get a tax deduction today, which saves them 2.5% in taxes.
Yep.
But in the future, down the road, by
When
the way,
they're
they're
retired.
young, 30, 40 years from now,
Yep.
they're going to have to pay income tax on whatever that grew to. So what they should have done and what they ended up doing after talking with us is they opened up a Roth IRA. They didn't get any tax advantages today because they didn't need them. They paid the tax of 2.5% on the income that they made. Now that money's going to grow tax-free. They can pull it out tax-free. Oh, by the way, if there's ever an emergency, guess what you can do with a Roth? You can pull out the principal at any time for any reason without penalty. So Macy and Placentia.
There's something else you need to know about Roth IRAs, and this is incredibly important for those people who've got college ahead of them. Roth IRAs are not included in that horrible FAFSA form that the government tortures us with.
In fact, none of your retirement accounts are. So keep that in mind. If you're doing college planning, think about the retirement accounts as a possible way to manage how you're going to be applying for student loan debt. Jim, you mentioned the backdoor Roth.
There's also the other possibility, and that is check to find out. Now, you own these companies. You may wish to install your own 401k. If you install a 401k, one of the options in a 401k is a Roth component. And there are no income limitations in a 401k Roth component.
And Macy, one last thing I would say is as your income starts to grow with that business and you're just crushing it, you're making a bunch of money with your company, keep in mind that because you own that business, you have a lot of other choices with how you save for retirement. A regular employee can only put away $17,500 a year for last year. $18,000.
Wait a minute. That's for the under 50
That's
crowd.
right. That's right.
That's your demographic, Scott.
That's right. Add a little bit more if you're over 50. But guess what? If you own your own business, a combination 401k defined benefit plan, you may be able to put away $250,000 a year for yourself. So keep that in mind as you continue to grow your company, Macy.
Wow.
Well, Jim, I think that's all the time we have for questions. We've got in one because we took a long time on that one, but it was an important one.
I like Roths.
Hey, before we go, I want to mention Smart Money Susan Green is going to be the guest speaker on at an Orange County event this week. Your New Money Legacy: From Uncertainty to Clarity, Confidence, and Long-Term Profit. The 3-hour workshop will take place at Hotel Huntington Beach across from Bellaterra Center on Thursday, April 16th from 6 to 9. If you want a ticket, give us a call, 888-266-2929. That's 888-266-2929.
Well, you've listened to Smart Money Talk Radio today. I'm Jim Conaway.
I'm Scott Landborg.
And this section of our program has been sponsored by Conaway & Conaway Wealth Preservation Strategies. If you'd like to speak to an advisor about building and maintaining your wealth, visit ConawayandConaway.com today and set an appointment.
We'll see you next week. I'm Scott Landborg.
I'm Jim Conaway.
Thanks for listening.
Smart Money Talk Radio.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind. You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Rubio makes it official. Oklahoma deputy charged. I'm Michael Toscano.
I announce my candidacy for President of the United States.
43-year-old first-term Republican Senator Marco Rubio says he's running to lead in the new century and help ensure the American dream.
The final verdict on our generation will be written by Americans who have not yet been born. Let us make sure they record that we made the right choice.
Rubio drawing generational contrast with Hillary Clinton.
Just yesterday, a leader from yesterday began a campaign for president by promising to take us back to yesterday. Yesterday is over.
Rubio also taking a few jabs at his former mentor, Jeb Bush. An Oklahoma Sheriff's Reserve deputy is being charged with manslaughter in the deadly shooting of a Tulsa man. Robert Bates allegedly shot and killed Eric Harris, saying he thought he was using his taser instead of his gun. Convicted murderer Jodi Arias will spend the rest of her life behind bars. She was sentenced today for killing her former boyfriend. I'm Michael Toscano.
I'm Lester Holt with NBC Nightly News.
And I'm Chuck Todd with Meet the Press.
We know you can't always watch on our schedule,
so that's why we are always available on yours.
With video on demand, you can watch NBC Nightly News.
And Meet the Press.
Any day of the week.
Any time of the day.
In-depth reporting on the day's top stories from NBC Nightly News.
And